I worked with many IMGs during my time as a junior doctor working in the hospital, and as a senior clinical lecturer, I will also be supporting IMGs on their journey to working here in the UK. I am well aware of the difficulties faced by IMGs who are looking to study and work here in the UK, so this video will go through 5 tips to significantly improve your communication with colleagues and with patients. Hi everyone, welcome back. If you're new, then a massive welcome to you. My name is Dr. Baptiste. I currently work as a portfolio GP, with my main roles being a salaried GP, GP tutor and examiner, a senior clinical lecturer, and co-founder of a medical education initiative called Med School Extra. Other smaller roles include speaking and primarily writing for GP Online. And if you aren't new, then welcome back, and a massive thank you to you also for staying subscribed and continuing to watch my videos. As always, if you like the video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to support the growth of the channel. So before we get into the tips that will help you interact well with your future patients and colleagues, we should define exactly what communication is. As defined by the Oxford Dictionary, communication is the transmission or exchange of information, knowledge, or ideas by means of speech, writing, mechanical or electronic media. So, as a doctor, you will need to communicate both verbally and in written form with both your patients and colleagues. Therefore, it is important that this is done well. There is also non-verbal communication, which includes things like eye contact and body language, such as posture. Most experts agree that 70 to 93% of all communication is non-verbal. Widely quoted research on non-verbal communication was led by Dr. Mehrabian during the 1960s. An estimate, therefore, is that roughly 55% of communication is body language, 38% tone of voice, and 7% is the words that are actually spoken. Hence, it is not what you say, but how you say it. Furthermore, this breakdown cannot be applied to every single situation, as I'm sure you can appreciate. Using the 3 C's of nonverbal communication, context, so the environment, history between those interacting, and other factors such as each person's role, clusters, using more than one gesture or movement to interpret meaning such as the person's state of mind or how they are feeling, and congruence, does what they say match with what they are doing with their body or body language. This may help determine someone else's emotions. Importantly, there is evidence to show a link between effective communication at work and job satisfaction. For example, employees may clearly understand what is expected of them and how they can contribute or perform their role well in the workplace. This may lead employees to feel more satisfied. Ultimately, this will then help the company or organisation that they are working for. If we look at the GMC Good Medical Practice, Domain 3, communication, partnership and teamwork. This details how you can communicate effectively. For example, by listening to patients and answering their questions honestly. Providing patients with the necessary information in a way that they can understand. For example, tailoring your language, using a translator or using visual aids. This domain also includes working collaboratively with colleagues. The GMC states that you must be aware of how your behaviour may influence others within and outside of the team. So a key part of communication is understanding how you communicate and perhaps how you may be perceived to others. Finally, another key area within this domain is establishing and maintaining partnerships with patients. So if you're not aware or familiar with the GMCs Good Medical Practice, I suggest you visit the website and have a read. So now that we have a good understanding of what communication is and how it applies to us in the healthcare sector, we can now look at 5 tips that will help you prepare for working in the UK. A key part of communicating to others is being yourself or being authentic, because like we have seen above, it is not what you say but how you say it, essentially. So be careful that when you're trying to learn from others or watching videos or reading material, that you do not dilute who you are and how you may do things. This is very different from making slight adjustments to improve your communication. Try and find some phrases that are natural for you to say and that will not come across forced. Don't focus solely on the technical aspects. As above, communication is more complicated than the words that you are speaking. As we have seen, it can be a very small part of your communication with others. It is important that you try to convey what you really mean rather than how someone may perceive or misconstrue what you mean. Think about how your tone, body language, and really understanding what the other person is saying will impact your communication. Take time to understand the culture. You may have friends or family here in the UK, and if so, it might be wise to ask them about the way of life. How do people live? What customs do they have? What things may cause offence? What things go down well or break the ice? If you're not able to do this, then perhaps connecting with some people in the UK on somewhere like LinkedIn, read posts, interact with others, ask questions. Here are a few examples which, of course, are generalizations. British people are often seen as indirect in the way they communicate, and they try to avoid conflict. So you have to be extra careful about what you say if you are used to being a bit more direct in your communication. Speaking more directly in the UK may be seen as rude. Of course, if you are in an emergency situation, saying, for example, pass me the cannula, may not be seen as rude, but if you were to say that in a non-emergency situation, it is more likely to be taken as offensive. So be more cautious about what you say and, of course, how you say it. I remember as a very junior doctor, some of the more senior doctors would want me or us juniors to do things. So they would, of course, have to delegate tasks to us. I always used to hear, do you want to take the bloods, for example? So it was not really a question, but more of a polite statement or rhetorical question. When, of course, you are not going to refuse your senior. Another generalization may be that British people tend to make understatements, so they may downplay or try not to be too dramatic or show their emotions in certain situations. For example, they may say things like a little or somewhat, when actually the opposite may be true. There are also sensitive topics you may want to avoid if you do not know someone very well. By this I mean that if you ask a question about a certain topic, you may be seen again as a bit rude. For example, asking someone about their age or weight, commenting on how they look, asking how much they earn, or making assumptions about their salary or wealth. Finally, perhaps watching programs, films, documentaries and videos may again help you to understand the UK culture a bit better and therefore how you can essentially fit into it smoothly. One example of a show is Very British Problems, which will give you some insight into the history of British communication and the humour. Understanding the system you'll be working in. The healthcare system you have experience with may be very different to the NHS or National Health Service. So researching the structure and how it works is a good starting point which you can build on when you finally arrive. Work experience, if you can secure it, will definitely help, and as above, asking anyone who lives and works in the UK may help. Furthermore, take the time to understand your colleagues and patients. As we have seen above, there is a strong emphasis on working in partnership with your patients and colleagues. It might be difficult for you to engage socially with your colleagues. Things that might help here are asking open versus closed questions, like yes or no questions. Show an interest in their lives, what they like to do, and perhaps you may want to share something about your life that you're comfortable with. Remembering what they tell you and incorporating it again in another conversation later will help build professional relationships. Perhaps they told you about their daughter, Emily, and she was not well at the time. Perhaps the next time you see your colleague, you could ask how their child is doing and actually mention their child's name too. So rather than saying, how is your daughter doing? Or I hope she's okay now, you could say, how is Emily doing? Or I hope Emily is doing much better now. Practice. Like anything, practicing your new skills and implementing all you know does take time to do. So don't rush and try not to get frustrated if you are not exactly where you want to be. Explain to others and practice with those around you. When you do start working in the UK, explain to your colleagues and patients that you may not be familiar with some things here, and this will hopefully help them understand and support you too. So I hope you have found the video useful. This was a short introduction to communication, as I know it can be very difficult and has been requested by you guys, the viewers, in the past. Let me know in the comments what you need to work on and what steps that you are taking to improve. As always, show some support by giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.